Hello and welcome to Cinema Screen HD. Today we'll be talking about a movie that falls under the horror and action genre, the 2007 film Rogue. To give you a brief idea about the story, a travel journalist visits the Northern Territory of Australia to gather material for an article. During his trip, he joins a group of tourists on a river cruise to spot crocodiles. However, things take a terrifying turn when their boat gets damaged and begins to sink, leaving them stranded on a small island in the middle of a river inhabited by a giant crocodile. Will they manage to escape the island unharmed? What challenges will they face? And will the giant crocodile hunt them down one by one? To find out all the answers, stay with us until the end of this video. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to turn on all notifications so you never miss an update. Now, let's jump right into the video. The film begins with breathtaking scenes from Kakadu National Park, located in Australia's Northern Territory. Soon after, we are shown a large buffalo drinking water by the river. However, a massive crocodile emerges from the water and drags the buffalo in. Following this, we are introduced to the main character, Pete, as he gets off a bus and walks forward. Pete is a writer for an American travel magazine and has come to the Australia's Northern Territory to write an article about spending a vacation there. He eventually stops by a nearby shop to get a cup of coffee. While waiting for his coffee, he notices photos displayed on the shop's walls. Most of the photos depict incidents where crocodiles attacked people in the area. During this time, Pete receives a call from his friend Phil, who asks how the trip is going. Pete replies that everything is fine except for losing his bag at the airport, which had his laptop. As they're talking, the call abruptly gets disconnected due to poor signal. Shortly after, Pete's coffee is ready. Before leaving the shop, Pete remarks on how fascinating the photos are. Pete then joins a group of tourists on a boat for a river tour to observe crocodiles and explore the area. His goal is to gather experiences and insights for his article about what tourists encounter in this region. Among the group are Simon, a photographer, an Australian family comprising Alan, Sherry, and Elizabeth, an American couple, Mary and Everett, Gwen and Russell, and the group's tour guide, Kate Ryan, along with her dog, Kevin. Kate is the daughter of the head of the tour company. As everyone gets settled on the boat and prepares for the journey, Kevin approaches Pete and licks him. Pete, who isn't fond of animals, moves to another spot on the boat to avoid the dog. As the group continues their journey along the river, Kate informs them that they'll soon reach a spot where they can see plenty of crocodiles. Meanwhile, Pete takes brief notes for his article, and Simon, the photographer, captures pictures of various locations and animals. Along the way, they come across another tourist boat stopped near the riverbank, feeding a crocodile. The group watches in awe as the crocodile devours a piece of meat, with some even snapping photos. They marvel at its size, and Gwen asks if it could come onto their boat. Kate reassures her, saying there's no danger as long as no one gets into the water. As they continue further downstream, the group spots more crocodiles. Kate explains that these are saltwater crocodiles, the most dangerous members of the crocodile family, and have been honing their hunting skills for over 200 million years. Simon curiously asks if they ever attack humans, to which Kate responds that, while rare, there have been cases of attacks on tourists. She quickly adds that they're safe inside the boat. During the journey, they come across other wildlife as well. Pete moves to the back of the boat because when Gwen, sitting near him, starts petting Kevin, Kate's dog, Pete goes to nearby Kate and they strike up a conversation. She asks where he's from, and Pete replies that he's from Chicago and writes for a travel magazine. While they're traveling further downstream, another boat approaches them. It belongs to Neil and Colin, two wildlife officers who stop to chat with Kate and the group. After their brief conversation, both boats head their separate ways. Eventually, Kate and her group begin their return journey to town. As they're heading back, Everett spots a distress flare in the sky and alerts the others. The entire group notices it, and Kate asks if they should head toward the location to check if someone needs help. The group agrees, and they set off to investigate the source of the flare. As the group continues their journey, Pete notices that Kate seems uneasy. Concerned, he asks if something is wrong. Kate hesitates before admitting that she wasn't keen on coming this way because this area is known to be extremely dangerous. Pete reassures her, saying that if someone is in trouble, they need to help. Meanwhile, Simon, who has been taking photos along the riverbanks, spots a large carving of a crocodile on a rock. As they press on, they don't find anyone who seems to have sent the distress flare. Just as they decide to turn the boat back toward town, Kate spots a capsized boat nearby. She steers their boat closer to investigate when suddenly something from underwater attacks their boat. The force causes the boat to tilt, and water starts flooding in. Acting quickly, Kate directs the boat toward a small island in the middle of the river. The group hurriedly gets off the boat while Kate grabs the radio to call her father. Unfortunately, there's no signal. She hands the radio to Simon, asking him to move around the island to see if he can get a signal. Everyone is visibly shaken, and Kate tries to calm them down, saying her father will send a rescue team within a few hours. As the group gathers on the island, Russell, who has been exploring the area, returns with alarming news. He informs them that this is a tidal river, meaning the island will likely be submerged when the water level rises. He insists they should swim to the opposite bank before nightfall. However, no one agrees with his plan. Frustrated, Russell decides to swim on his own, but Everett stops him before he can get into the water. As Russell comes back to shore, Simon announces that he has found a signal on the radio. Everyone hurries over to him, but while they're distracted, Everett stays close to the water. Suddenly, a crocodile bursts out from the river, grabs Everett, and drags him underwater. Mary screams in terror, while the others stand frozen in shock, unable to process what just happened. Night falls, and to make matters worse, the river's water level starts rising steadily. Pete checks his phone for a signal, but there's none. Determined to find a way to get help, Kate and Pete head back to the boat to search for the distress flares. However, they realize the flares have drifted away with the rising water, leaving them even more desperate for a solution. Soon after, the radio Alan was holding picks up a signal, but instead of voices, music begins to play. As the group wonders about it, Neil and Colin approach in their boat from downstream. It becomes clear that they were the ones who set the radio to play music as a joke. Neil and Colin quickly dock their boat and joke with the group, but before long, Colin asks what happened to their boat. Just as Kate begins to explain, a crocodile attacks from underwater, overturning their boat. Neil managed to swim to the island safely, but Colin disappears and is nowhere to be found. With night falling, the group starts a fire using driftwood and sets up the boat's light for visibility. Meanwhile, Simon, using his camera to scan the river, spots a few beer bottles and 2 dead seabirds that have floated onto the island. Quietly, he retrieves the beer bottles, thinking they might come in handy. As Kate, Russell, and Pete discuss their next steps, Neil suggests a bold plan. He proposes tying a rope across the river to the other side. He offers to swim to the other bank, secure the rope to a tree, and create a line for everyone to use to cross safely. However, no one is keen on this idea, fearing the crocodile could attack again. Neil grows frustrated and warns them that staying on the island isn't an option either. He reminds them that the island is sinking due to the rising tide and insists that the crocodile has already marked this territory as its hunting ground. He explains that the crocodile sees them as food and is guarding them like a dog protecting its meat. According to Neil, the crocodile will eventually take each of them, one by one, to its lair. Now is the best time to act, he says firmly. Though hesitant, the group reluctantly agrees. Kate expresses her doubts, telling Neil she doesn't think this is a good idea. Neil, however, responds firmly, "You want to get home, right? Everyone does. That's why we have no choice." The group ties their ropes together and secures one end to a tree on the island. Neil ties the other end around his waist and grabs a flashlight before carefully wading into the water. As Neil swims toward the other side, Simon uses his camera to keep a watchful eye on the far bank, scanning for any signs of danger lurking in the shadows. Eventually, Neil manages to swim across the river and quickly ties the rope to a tree on the far side. He then uses his torch to signal the group, instructing them to use the rope to cross safely. Kate sends Mary first, carefully explaining how to hold onto the rope and move across. Mary slowly makes her way but freezes midway, hanging onto the rope and refusing to move further. Meanwhile, Alan attempts to send his daughter, Sherry, along the rope as well. Despite warnings from the others that the rope cannot support multiple people at once, Alan climbs onto the rope with Sherry. The two make it to where Mary is hanging, but she still doesn't move. Neil, frustrated by the delay, shouts at them to keep moving. However, as he yells, he accidentally drops his torch. As he leans down to retrieve it, the crocodile leaps Neil, grabs him, and killing him instantly. The group watches in shock as Neil disappears. Kate and Pete call out to him, but there is no response. Kate notices the crocodile emerging from the water on the far side of the river and screams at everyone on the rope to return to the island immediately. Panicked, the three on the rope, Mary, Alan, and Sherry, try to move back, but their frantic movements cause the rope to snap, and all three fall into the water. They manage to swim back to the island, but Alan, guilt-ridden, apologizes profusely for his mistake. Suddenly, the crocodile attacks again, grabbing Alan and dragging him into the water. The group watches in horror as the enormous 25-foot crocodile pulls him under, leaving no trace. Terrified and realizing the island is slowly sinking as the water level rises, the group thinks their next move. While Pete discusses options with Kate, she points out that Mary and Elizabeth are injured and in need of medical attention. She also expresses concern that rescue will arrive by morning. Pete asks if there was a first aid kit on the boat. Kate confirms there was, but it might have floated away during the chaos. Determined to help, Pete decides to search the boat to see if the first aid kit is still inside. He cautiously makes his way toward the half-sunken boat. As Pete searches the boat for the first aid kit, he comes up empty-handed. However, he does find the boat's anchor, which he decides to bring back to shore. Once ashore, Pete suggests using the anchor to set a trap for the crocodile. He explains that if they can lure the creature into the trap, they might buy enough time to swim to the other side of the river. Russell, however, argues that it's impossible to swim across while the massive crocodile is still in the water. He suggests the only viable option is to wait for rescue and leave the island on a larger boat. Pete disagrees, pointing out that the water level is rising rapidly and they must act immediately. Gwen adds that they'll need bait to lure the crocodile and that she is not sure how the anchor will float. Kate then suggests using life vests to help secure the trap and keep it afloat. At this point, Simon, who has been quietly listening to the conversation, sarcastically asks Pete if he plans to catch the crocodile as if it's some ordinary fish. Pete, growing frustrated, turns to Kate and demands to know how much time they have before the island is completely submerged. Kate estimates they have about half an hour at most. With that, Pete declares that they have no choice but to proceed with the plan, using whatever resources they have. Russell reluctantly agrees, but reminds them that they still need proper bait. The group then turns to Kevin, hinting at the possibility of using him as bait. Kate, however, vehemently opposes this idea. Simon, recalling the two dead birds he had seen earlier, suggests they use those instead. He retrieves the birds and shows them to the group, asking if the crocodile would eat anything it comes across. Meanwhile, the water level rises to the point where it floods the spot where the group had lit their fire. As Pete and Kate prepare the trap, Russell, Gwen, and Simon scout the back of the island for the shortest distance to swim across the river. Pete and Kate tie the anchor with the dead birds as bait and use life vests to keep the trap afloat. They throw the contraption into the water, intending to lure the crocodile to it. Since someone needs to stay near the trap to ensure the crocodile is properly caught, Pete volunteers for the risky task, declaring that he'll be the last to make the swim across. As Russell asks Pete if he has ever gone fishing, Pete responds confidently, saying he has been fishing since he was 6 years old. With that, Pete stays back near the trap while the others start making their way to the other side of the island. Meanwhile, Russell approaches Elizabeth and hands her a life vest. Elizabeth refuses, saying she cannot swim and doesn't want to put anyone's life at risk trying to save her. But Russell insists, telling her that if she doesn't take the vest, she'll be putting his life in danger because he's not going to leave her behind to die. Back at the trap, Pete is holding on to the anchor, waiting for the crocodile to take the bait. However, when it doesn't seem to appear, Kate and Kevin join him. Then Kate comes and says that crocodiles like the smells of dogs, so you should keep him here. But Pete promises Kate that he will take care of Kevin because she says to promise me that you will take care of Kevin. Finally, the massive crocodile takes the bait, thrashing violently in the trap. Kate rushes to the others and shouts for them to swim to the other side as quickly as possible. The crocodile, struggling against the trap, thrashes even more violently, causing the ropes to strain. Pete pulls on the rope to keep the trap in place while Russell follows through on his promise, helping Elizabeth swim across the river. As Pete struggles to hold onto the rope, he yells to Kate, warning her that he won't be able to hold it for much longer. Kate dives into the river and begins swimming to the other side. Just as she does, Pete notices the crocodile suddenly stop thrashing. Alarmed, he quickly pulls the anchor out of the water, only to realize that the crocodile has escaped the trap. Pete shouts to Kate to swim faster, warning her that the crocodile is free. Before she can react, the crocodile surfaces near Kate, grabbing her and dragging her underwater. Pete dives in after her, but by the time he reaches the spot, both Kate and the crocodile have disappeared. Devastated, Pete and Kevin make it to the other side of the river, calling out for Kate, but there's no sign of her. Then Pete and Kevin decide to venture into the forest. As they search for Russell and the others, Kevin suddenly starts running frantically into the forest. Despite Pete following Kevin's trail, Pete is unable to locate him. Exhausted, Pete sits near a tree when he hears Kevin barking in the distance. Pete follows the sound and discovers Kevin barking from inside a cave under the roots of a large tree. Remembering his promise to Kate to protect Kevin, Pete enters the cave to find him. As Pete slides into the cave, he is startled by the sight of Neil's lifeless body floating in the water. Shaken but determined, Pete continues toward the source of Kevin's barking. He finally finds Kevin, but also notices Kate's motionless body nearby. Pete rushes to Kate, examines her, and realizes she is still alive, though severely injured from the crocodile's attack. Before Pete can do anything, Kevin bolts off into the cave, barking frantically again. Pete calls out to Kevin, but the dog doesn't stop and disappears deeper into the cave. Moments later, the barking abruptly stops, and Pete senses danger. Realizing something or someone is approaching, he quickly lifts Kate and hides her in a safe spot before hiding himself. To Pete's horror, the massive crocodile enters the cave, its sheer size and menacing presence freezing him in fear. The crocodile drags Kevin's lifeless body behind it, confirming Pete's worst fears. The creature then settles down to rest. Seizing the moment, Pete quietly emerges, carrying Kate out of the cave. However, as he glances back to check, he notices the crocodile has vanished from its resting spot. Terrified, Pete's fears are confirmed when the crocodile suddenly lunges toward them. Acting quickly, Pete grabs Kate and hides at the base of a large tree. The crocodile, relentless in its pursuit, closes in. Spotting a sturdy small log nearby, Pete gathers his courage and rushes to grab it. However, the crocodile intercepts him, snapping the branch in its jaws and hurling Pete aside with incredible force. Bruised but determined, Pete gets up and hides between two boulders. The crocodile follows, trying to snap at Pete with its powerful jaws. In the process, the beast's teeth catch Pete's right hand, severing several fingers. Screaming in pain, Pete grabs a bone fragment from the cave floor and strikes the crocodile's head, forcing it to retreat momentarily. As the crocodile withdraws, Pete hears Kate's faint cries, reminding him of his duty to protect her. He steels himself for what comes next, knowing their fight for survival isn't over. As the crocodile moves closer to Kate, Pete grabs a nearby rock and throws it at the beast, hitting it hard. While the crocodile momentarily recoils, Pete quickly picks up the broken log from earlier and braces its sharp end against crocodile come's direction and the other end against a rock, positioning it as a makeshift spear. He's sitting his ground, ready for the crocodile's next attack. Crocodile charges at Pete with full force, attempting to lunge at him. But as it leaps, its momentum drives its own open jaws onto the sharp log. The pointed end pierces through the crocodile's throat, killing it instantly. Exhausted and battered, Pete narrowly escapes the crocodile's jaws as its massive body collapses lifelessly. A few moments later, Pete emerges from the crocodile's mouth. Gathering his strength, Pete picks up the injured Kate and continues moving through the cave. As he steps outside, he notices the first rays of dawn breaking through the trees. Morning has come. After some time, Pete and Kate stumble upon a rescue team that had been searching for them. To Pete's relief, the team also includes the other members of their group who had gone missing earlier. Recognizing Kate's critical condition, the rescuers quickly prepare her for evacuation. As she is loaded onto a helicopter, Kate turns to Pete and says, "Thank you for saving me." Pete watches as the helicopter takes off, carrying Kate away to safety. The scene then shifts to the cafe where Pete had been shown at the start of the story. On the cafe's wall, next to the familiar photographs, we now see a framed newspaper article. The article describes Pete's heroic act of defeating the crocodile and saving Kate's life. As the camera pans over the article, the story concludes, leaving the audience with a sense of closure and admiration for Pete's bravery. And with that, this gripping and emotional movie comes to an end. So, what do you think about today's story? Don't forget to leave a comment and give a like below. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our Cinema Screen HD YouTube channel yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon by selecting all to stay updated. That's it for today. We'll see you soon in the next video. Until then, have a great day, everyone.